All right, so this is another episode of the Uncivilized Art Podcast. I am your host, Bumi Hazam, but I go by Bandit Haze in the online space, and today I have a couple of guests that you see above my head, or you're just gonna hear their voices in a little bit if you're listen to this on if you listen to this. I should probably improve my intros, but anyway, we're going to be talking about Arcane, the Netflix series Arcane, based on popular video game called League of Legends by Riot Games. We have Celeste over here. We got Sweet Bunny over here. Before we get into that, though, guys, how you been? How you doing? You both been on the podcast before, so how you been since the last time we spoke? Celeste, what's been up?
Oh,
Have you
it's
had any
been
more babies yet?
crazy. Like, I actually had my family over recently, and that was a hoot. My poor child was passed around kind of like a hot potato until he cried, then goes straight to mom, and then they all dissipate and they disappear. So it's been crazy. Still trying to work on cosplay, still trying to get my gaming in, but the baby wants to stay on my lap, so I can't really mash the keyboard with him being here.
Yeah.
But been great.
Yeah, time is a precious commodity, and I think when you've got like people dependent on you, it becomes even more of a precious commodity. So yeah, it's appreciate you coming through and taking time out of your mothering duties to come chat with about League of Legends.
Well,
It's
thanks
a
for
bit,
having me. I love League, and I hate the fact that I love League. It's like this really bad relationship. I mean, it's a good thing because like you can grow a community, but at the same time, it's just like I really don't. It's a love hate relationship. It really is.
Sweet Bundy. How you doing,
Yeah,
man?
man. I'm doing good. I've been busy with my new job. Um, just taking it in. And I mean, that's the main reason why I haven't been streaming lately. Because like I already came back, I say about a few months ago, and I was playing what the hell was I playing? Soul Hackers 2, which is the same made by the same company that made Persona 5. And you're people that know me already know that I'm a fiend for Persona 5. Not Persona 4, not Persona 3, Persona 5 specifically. I fucking love that. And by the way, it's on Game Pass. If you haven't played it yet, now's the time.
Okay, I'll have to check that. I haven't seen it, but yeah, I'll check that.
What?
Was this a sponsored post? Do we get an affiliate link or like a
We should
discount?
I
really,
Then
actually, the
wish.
way
stop
man's
stop
bigging up this
plugging
game, we
something that
should.
we don't get like discounts on. Okay, we
I
ain't
We should.
running
We
like
should,
that.
we should be. Listen, I need Microsoft to put some money in my pocket, man, for real. The way we're talking about this Xbox Game Pass and all the games on it, I need Microsoft to come over and like, you know what I mean?
Man, the
Any
way I
kind of
be
fighting
praising
game right
them,
there.
I need something.
You know what, though? I want to point out real quick before we get into the main part of this podcast. I want to point out something real quick because people talk about these ambitious crossovers in the movie world and, all these like different things going on and, all that stuff. So I feel like right now, this is a very ambitious collaboration we're doing because we've managed to put together three different time zones in this podcast.
Oh
So I feel
yeah.
like we need to give ourselves a pat on the back for this. You know what I mean? We got New York, we've got Denmark, we got London.
Oh my god, that's where my
I actually,
family is right now. By the way, my sister's doing a photo shoot today.
Oh, in New
but New
York?
York or London?
London, sorry,
Oh, okay.
they're not specified, but they're in London. They're like, look, we got bangers and mash. I'm like, thanks for rubbing it in.
Yeah, you're not
Okay.
missing much. But yeah, it took a little minute to put this together to find times that we could all do and figuring out the time zone differences and making sure I'm not typing in the wrong time in the messages that I'm sending you because I'm like, wait a minute, was that 4 hours ahead or was that I'm trying to work things out? So yeah, we got there, we got there. But yeah, we got three different time zones today, and I felt like the stream's coming through okay. I mean, you guys can hear each other. I can hear you. It doesn't seem to be any kind of noticeable lag on the audio or the video or anything like that. So yeah, this is
Yeah,
I feel like
just
we're
don't
doing all
jinx
right.
us.
All right, so far so good. I've got a double shot of Americano right here, so I'm
Do you
ready.
feel American? Because you're talking to two Americans, you had to drink an American drink.
You know what? That didn't even occur to me, but I guess it kind of worked out, huh? I guess it was like subconscious things of like which coffee drink can I make. Actually, to be fair, I'd actually normally go with black coffees just anyway. Like that's kind of my go-to when it comes to coffee, black coffees. So either regular black coffee or americano, or filter coffee, things like that. Lately I've been doing more like the lattes and flat whites and stuff like that. But I wanted to put honey in the coffee, and I found out recently that if you put honey in a milk coffee, I don't know what the scientific thing behind it is, but it doesn't work. It does not work. Like the coffee bit seems to be fine, but the milk bit goes really really thick, and it's almost like a soft biscuit,
That's really gross.
So yeah, it wasn't too pleasant. So I went with black coffee, put some honey and lemon in there, and yeah, that's what I'm having today.
I really want to know why you put honey in coffee. I never heard of that before.
Um,
Honey and tea, but
it's it's to do with taking care of my throat. Um,
But are you sick?
no, well,
Well,
maybe
I
a
mean,
little
you're
bit, but
adding
not like
like honey, and usually
yeah.
people are sick, they drink honey and
Yeah,
tea.
I did have a cough that I'm getting over, so there is that. But it's also just I feel like when you do things where you use your voice a lot, and I'm doing the podcast, I'm doing like YouTube, and I'm talking to people all the time. So I feel like you got to take care of your throat. You got to take care of your voice, and honey and lemon is good for that. So yeah, so that's the reason behind it. But yeah, I did have a little tickly cough, maybe just a little remnants of it still left, but I'm good now. I'm good.
Well, glad to hear you're doing good.
Thank you.
I'm trying to find it. Okay. There we go.
But yeah, so we're going to be talking about Arcane, the League of Legends series. We're going to be going into like spoilers and stuff like that in a little while. But before we get into that, as like say a non-spoiler review, like a short non-spoiler review, how would you rate the show, Bundy?
out of 10, I would give it like an 8, maybe even a 9. I
Okay.
really like the art style. That's the first thing that kept my attention. The voice acting is top notch.
Mm,
But the art style is what really kept me going. Like, for example, I'm very picky when it comes to shows because I'm just very impatient. And don't get me wrong, this story, this show, it actually gets straight to the point. The characters are, they attract you. They're fun. Some are relatable. They're interesting. Even some of the side characters, a lot of the side characters that aren't really long term, so to speak. Very interesting. I wanted to read up on them, especially when I didn't. For me, I never played the game, so there are some characters that I didn't know if they were going to be there for to season 2, for example, or if they're just there for this moment. So I just found myself just going by episode by episode by episode, and I haven't binge watched the show in a long time.
okay. Okay. Celeste, that's somebody who plays a lot of League, and now watching the show based on League. What's your short non-spoiler review of Arcane?
I would definitely give it like a 7 out of 10. Um, I I like the art style. It's very different from what they portray in the game because it's a different medium, obviously. Um, One of the things that they definitely had, like, it's not really spoken about in the show, but it is like mental health awareness and how it can really break you down and tear you down. And so actually playing the game and seeing how like these characters become to be inside the game, it's just kind of like, oh, this is a really interesting kind of like prequel. And I actually play a few of these characters, so I'm just like, oh, so that's what happened. Okay, all right. Now I don't need to read your character bio. I'll just go play as you now. Um, definitely really enjoyed some parts of it, but some parts I'm just like, really? Ah, come on, that's cheap. Did you just, was this an afterthought? Like, why did you throw this in? It actually took me like 2 times to watch it. because I'm just like, I could either watch the game or play the game, and I'm like, I'd rather play it. But after watching all of it a few days sitting, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. I can see why it won so many awards, so it's definitely worth the watch.
Okay. Okay, I mean, I would say that yeah, definitely the art style was quality. It was really really good. Kind of like a watercolor sort of style they went with. I've not played. Well, I played the game very very briefly, not enough to really know it. You know, I think I played it for maybe like 30 minutes or something like that. But from that very short experience with the game, yeah, the art style is very different to that. It does seem, however, Riot are using this kind of watercolor style a bit more though, because I feel like they're using it more in things like Valiant and stuff like that.
Yeah, the cell shading is definitely one of their new things since it took off with Arcane. I can tell you that much.
But yeah, no, I really liked it. I felt like my kind of experience watching it though, like it kind of felt like a lot was happening and not much was happening all at the same time. You know, I know it's a kind of a weird way to describe it. It feels like so much is happening as you're watching it, but at the same time, it also feels like nothing is happening. And so it's kind of this weird feeling of where's this going a lot. And then I think by the time it gets to maybe about halfway through the season, I feel for me at least, that's when it kind of really starts to come together a lot more. And then certainly by the time you get to the end, and you see the sort of culmination of it all. It was like, wow, that was really cool what they did and how they didn't just go with a standard, typical way of ending these sorts of things. I would say that because I actually end up watching it twice, mainly because to prepare for this podcast. But I would say that after watching it a second time, I feel like it definitely does click a lot more as well. And partly because, of course, when you watch things multiple times, you're gonna understand better. But perhaps there was certain references that I wasn't getting because I didn't play the game, that I perhaps missed the first time around, and perhaps that's part of the reason why it felt a lot's happening but not much and things like that. But certainly watching it a second time round, for me it felt like it clicked a lot more, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm seeing how it all comes together a bit better now, and how the characters developed and things like that. I mean, definitely I would say maybe one or two minor gripes with it, but overall, yeah, really really liked it. So that's my non-spoiler review. I don't know if I'd give it a score. I generally don't give scores, but since you guys gave scores,
I didn't know if we were doing it, so I just copied you. We didn't do it last time.
Yeah, we'll go with 7 out of 10. Then you guys said 7, so I'll stick with 7. 7 sounds about right, I think. So yeah, so maybe not quite masterpiece level, but still pretty good. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think 7 sounds about right.
I guess. I mean, I really liked it. Like, I really, really liked this show. That's why I was struggling between like an 8 and a 9. I was only initially thinking 8 because I remembered that I had to go ahead and watch the show again to like remind myself, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. And there was a lot of stuff that I forgot. But I will say this on my second viewing, I really enjoyed it still. Like, even though I knew what was happening or what was going to happen in a lot of the cases, like, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect in my mind. Like, there are some things that I'm like, I feel like that's cheesy. I don't really like this part too much. But I never found myself feeling like, man, I just want to skip. I just want to skip this part.
All right.
And there's a few parts that I felt like I had to skip. So, I mean, that's just me.
But the thing is, you actually played the game. You actually played the game, so it could be way different from you. I mean, for you. So that's why I'm interested in.
Oh, well, I mean, does Bandit have anything else to say before I jump into that?
No, and I think I mean, if you, I feel like we need to get into some spoilers now, so and really talk about this show.
It's not a spoiler, though.
Well, I feel like we want to talk about the show on a deeper level and try and talk about the themes of it and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like we once we're doing that, we are going to get into this is a spoiler warning, because I feel like at this point, if you haven't, people have probably already seen it, and if you haven't, go watch it. That's the review. Go watch it.
Like, it's been out for like 2 years, right?
Yeah, it's been out for a few minutes. So yeah, definitely worth watching. And yeah, I think I believe a season two's been confirmed. I know it won a bunch of awards, and I did hear something about a next season. I'm sure I heard something about a next season coming. So yeah, definitely that's the main review. Go watch it. But yeah, no, I think yes, if it's us talking about. Let's start talking about this in a bit more detail. So I'm gonna start with Celeste, as somebody who's played the game a lot. You streamed it on Twitch a lot. You're part of the community. You are the resident expert for League
Thank
of
you.
Legends,
I
at
don't
least
play
for
right.
now. But for yourself watching this, I mean, I know it doesn't matter too much in terms of how accurate it's the game, because that's somewhat irrelevant in your enjoyment of the show. But did you feel, for yourself as a fan of the game and watching the show, that it complements the game, or did you feel like it's? I think you kind of answered the question already, but do you feel like this works with the game in terms of its overall story, or do you feel like it's not quite there?
In certain aspects. Definitely in certain aspects, especially with Victor's story. Victor Victor
Right. Yeah.
is in the game. So that was something that was like really bothering me. I'm like, oh, he works here. And then I had to go back and check up on his story because I've only played as him as a few times. But I'm like, but that's not what he looks like in the game. He's actually in the game. He's got like a full on like steampunk kind of helmet. One arm is actually mechanical. He has the little robot hand behind him
Hmm.
that he develops in the show. And then he's got like a leg that's replaced as well. But I'm just like, I don't know where this is going for him. And I'm like, they're trying to combine so many characters in this show. So I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. My main character is actually Heimerdinger. And it
Right.
was kind of like heartbreaking to see him in this because I'm like, oh, look, it's little Jaime. Oh my God, I love Jaime. And then all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, we're going to screw over him. And I was like, why? Uh. Um, so like it was just really strange because there were so many parts where as someone who plays the game, but I don't know every single, like there's 170 champions. I don't know everyone's story, but Jayce is not someone that I main or have ever tried playing. But to see him slowly build up into this power and then get where he gets at the end, I think we said spoiler part right now. So
Yeah.
spoiler.
Yeah.
Like for him to get on the council, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? There's a council in Piltover? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like Caitlyn and Vi are 1,000% supposed to be where they are supposed to be, but them becoming like oh, we're buddies, but closer than buddies, but we're not buddies, but we like each other. Cupcake, wink, wink. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, is that a thing? Was that ever a thing? So it's just like really strange in some aspects of like, okay, that is what happens, but you're adding this extra layer where it's just like this seems unnecessary. I think
Hmm.
maybe it
I
was just
agree.
really weird. Yeah. Ekko's story was like on point. I've only used him a few times, and like seeing him as a child was like, oh, heartbreaking just to see like this little kid being smart. Like all those kids being smart, I'm just like, what the hell? Why do they know how to repair things? And I can't even change the oil of a car. Like that doesn't make sense. But
Well, I mean,
okay.
it is like a steampunk world. Probably learned it in primary school.
Yeah. So there's that. Like Powder being who she is and how she has like, oh, look at my little trap bombs. I'm like, I use that. I use that. That's actually a move. I think it's her E. Yeah, it's her E. Because in League of Legends, it's QWER, R being your ultimate, and then you like, like, doo. Yeah,
Okay.
Jinx
You meant
definitely represented her character like perfectly when she became Jinx, you know. So it
you
was
mentioned earlier that this is kind of like a prequel to the game. So I'm assuming that means guys like Vanda and was it Clanger and those initial. I guess they're not in the game then,
that's correct. They're
because
not there.
Vanda seems like a character that could be pretty cool in that game. Like he seemed, kind of this father figure type person that seems like I don't know, is there a character like Vanda in the game that you know of?
Off the top of my head, I can think of two characters. The first one is Braum. Braum is actually a tank character from, where's the place that Ash is from? Freylord. Yeah, so he's from Freylord. Freylord? Yeah, anyway, some crazy name. And he actually wields a giant shield, and he's like, only the strongest that carries like a strong heart. And he's like, don't worry, Braum is here. And he's got the giant mustache. And if you feed Heimerdinger's little pet, it's called a Poro, the little white puffed ball with horns. Yeah. They actually grow Braum mustaches, and it's like the cutest thing ever. So there's that guy. And the second guy that I would say that is like super like fatherly, I was gonna say Tryndamere. And Tryndamere is actually one of the first champions ever made because he's based off of the Riot. What the hell is his name? Like founders, one of the founders. So his nickname was like Tryndamere, and then he put him in the game, and that's his champion. So he's kind of like fatherly, super strong, but he wields like a giant Sephiroth like pyramid head sword, so not the same. But they kind of have like a semi-father figure. But I think with Vander, because like and Vi being very close together, it kind of leads into her story on how she's able to, you know, punch so well and get to where she is in the game.
Okay. Sweet Bundy, after watching the show, well, twice now, what would you say is the biggest takeaway for you about Arcane?
What do you mean?
Like, what did you get from it? Like, what did you feel like it did for you in terms of your experience watching it? Like, did you feel like, I don't know, like it informed you with something, or did you, I don't know, feel anything, any kind of connection with the characters or anything like that?
So what I really enjoyed about the characters, I really enjoyed Silco. I
So,
liked
right,
the
yeah.
fact that he was, you know, from the jump, you're like, this guy's evil, he's bad. But then you start seeing this relationship between him and Jynx. And, you know, not until the end is it confirmed that he actually cares about her.
Mm,
Sure, there's moments where he shows affection towards her, but in the end, like that's when it really confirmed it, because you could argue that even though he was showing affection before in the previous scenes, that he was pretty much just protecting his weapon. Like he just viewed her as a weapon. That's the typical um structure of like, or trope, I should say, of characters like that. You know, the big reveal, and then Jinx realizes that you know, nobody cares about her or whatever the case may be. That's why I thought it was going to head to, but they didn't. They averted that, and I love that. I really like that this character, who is so evil, so despised, and so dark, he does have this side of him that is still human, where he actually gave a damn about this girl like she was his own.
mm,
And even with Jinx, so when it comes to characters, especially female characters, unfortunately, writers usually don't know how to write them properly. You get characters like Harley Quinn, where you're like, okay, we're just gonna make this character crazy, whatever, for no damn reason. But with Jinx, like when I saw Powder, I saw the blue hair, and I'm like, okay, I already know this character is supposed to turn into Jinx. I'm wondering how they're gonna do that. But they show signs, like they little subtle signs in the early episodes, and you could kind of figure how she ended up becoming the way she is. She was always a little off in the head, but it was the circumstances that she was put in, the trauma that she went through, that amplified it to the next level. So it wasn't like an awkward or abrupt change. So when they did the time skip, it wasn't like you can't really believe it, or you just feel like it was cheap just to get to that. At least for me, um, I really enjoyed how V was, you know, the older sister, and
Oh, bye.
yeah, Vi. Sorry.
V
I really
six.
liked that she was the older sister, and I love the relationship between those two, and it was heartbreaking to see them, you know, going against each other. And I loved when whenever they had a moment where they would team up. I gotta agree though with the whole relationship between Vi and Caitlyn. I, I felt like it came out of nowhere and it was a little too fast forward. And then also what bothered me was the fact that like I don't like when characters just turn against family. Like you gotta realize Vi and Powder slash Jinx, they've grown up together. They went through trauma when they were kids. They grew up together. They one thought the other was dead or something like that. So they finally get to reunite, and then she's kind of like going against Jinx for this girl that she just met. And for me, like I don't know, when it comes to family, it's something different. And I don't care if they're related by blood or not, because that doesn't equate to family, in my opinion. It's the bond, you know, and the experience that they went through. And I just didn't like the fact that Vi was kind of going against Jinx. I don't get me wrong, Jinx was, you know, bad, but when they first met again, right? There was this moment where they're standing on that platform or on top of a tank or something like that, a water tank or whatever. And you could see that Jinx could be turned. Like she's still there. Like that powder side, she is still there. And Vi could easily, you know, get a hold of her and be like, "Oh, snap out of this shit. What's wrong with you?" And Caitlyn's the one that, you know, turns that shit into a fight. And don't get me wrong, the fight was awesome, but I don't know. It's just moments like that where I'm like, all right, the writing is a little weak, just a little bit, but not enough to where I'm gonna complain about the show or like groan when I'm watching it.
Okay. Okay. Um, I'll say for myself, the things that stood out for me the most were the themes around loyalty, betrayal, fatherhood or father figures rather. I mean, I don't know if they say it specifically, but I got the impression that Vanda wasn't their biological dad. It,
Mm,
it seemed that's
No, their
the
parents died with the Silco fight
yeah.
against the Upper City.
okay.
So that's what happened.
So
Because
yeah,
the first shot is when they're at the bridge and it's burned down, and they look over, and then she like makes Powder not look, and then they both end up sobbing, and that Vander takes them in.
yeah. So Vanda, yeah, he's looking after them as his own kids, and he's looking after the other kids as well. Um, and Silco, you know, you mentioned before, Sweet, that's how he really cared about Powder. He wasn't just, you know, this weapon, and maybe that's how it started off. I guess we'll never really know. Maybe that's what you saw, and that's how it started off. But certainly by the time he gets to end, he genuinely did care about her, and he wasn't going to, at least so it seems, he wasn't going to turn her in for them. But certainly the themes around loyalty and this idea of you know, you have Vi and Powder, you know, these sisters that grew up together and they're separated. But then after everything, Vi's been in prison for a while. Powder's been hanging with Silco for a while. Prior to that, the way their relationship sort of ended with, you know, Powder for wanting to help them out, throwing those bombs, the hex was it the not the hex gate, was it with the bombs
It
with
is a
glucose
hex gem.
was it hex gem, throwing those blow, ends up killing everybody without realizing. She doesn't even know she's killed them, and she's like, you know, I helped her help her, and of course that pisses off Vi. She's acting out of anger
Mhm.
when she's hitting her, but that's pretty much like the last time they see each other, right? And then but then they come together again, and it's like, but they're still family. And how much can you? I mean, I guess when time passes, there's a period of time where you somewhat forget about the bad stuff and maybe romanticize about the good stuff, but at the same time, Powder's kind of been in this position where all she remembers is the bad stuff, you know, because she's been with Silco and because of his ideologies and, you know, the way he kind of viewed Vanda and what they did to her. Whereas Vi's just kind of been away from that, and we don't know exactly what she's been doing, but certainly for at least the last while she's been in that prison, just, you know, there. So it's coming back together, and how much are you still family? In fact, I think Powder says something like that. Are we still sisters? You know, and she's like, of course, someone's going to change that. But Powder's a completely different person now. I mean, she's not even Powder anymore. She's Jynx. And Ekko was talking about how she's too far gone. Val doesn't want to believe that. But you mentioned about not telling against family, Sweet. I feel like there's a point where she kind of have to look at it and say, is this really still her sister? Is this really still Powder, or is Powder well and truly dead and it is just Jynx now? And maybe Powder was still in there, and maybe it's just that Vi wasn't able to bring Powder back out. Maybe it was something else that was needed. But yeah, for me, it was like that whole thing of family loyalty, the feeling of betrayal, especially in the beginning or near the beginning, where Powder overhears Vi telling, I think it's Clang or one of the other guys, about how she that can't do this and can't do that, but leaves before Vi says that, she also can't complain about everything. She was actually trying to support her, but she doesn't hear that bit. So she's hearing all this. Is like, this is supposed to be my sister. This is supposed to be the person that has my back. Over everybody, and has had her back all this time. For every screw up, for every time she's made a mistake or got something wrong, or the bombs didn't work, and everything else. She's always had her back, and now even her, that feeling of like even her has turned her back on her. So like, I feel like Powder, the character Powder, has been through a lot internally. And you mentioned about mental health. That didn't even occur to me before, but since you mentioned it, it does fit into there. There's just everything she's been through, how she views her world, how she views her sister, and this love that she has for Vi. That part of her desperately wants to believe that it's still there. When she sees the other girl that looks like Vi, and it's like, oh no, it wasn't her. She was like, you could tell that she's going crazy. She's been thinking about it all this time. But Vi's changed. She's changed. The world's changed. Everything's changed, and it's like part of both characters wants to be together, but a bigger part of them is already decided that it can't work. So there was definitely a lot going in that isn't necessarily spoken, but it's just kind of felt through the dialogue and their actions. So yeah, that was my kind of takeaway from that. I would say that you mentioned about the time skip though. That was one of my gripes about the show actually, because I think it's episode 4 is when the time skip happens, and it doesn't mention it. Like there's no like 6 years later or whatever it was. It just goes straight into this new world. And so it did take a minute to be like, wait, what's going on? Like it did take a minute to be like, oh, okay, I guess this is in the future sometime, because it just kind of happened, and it's like, all right. So that
it
was,
just randomly happens. Like, oh, by the way, ta-da!
yeah,
Like,
everybody's going through puberty already, and it's like, wait, what? Just
I mean,
kind of watch these
me,
characters like that looks like Vi, but is that what's going on?
I actually liked it because like typically when shows do the time skip, they show you all 5 years later or whatever, and yeah, that's cool to educate me on that. But so film has this thing that everybody knows by now called show don't tell, right? And that was one of the perfect examples of that. We could see these familiar characters and we're like, what's going on? And then it starts to occur to us like, yeah, this is the time skip. Oh shit, they jumped far ahead. How long has it been? And for me, I'm not saying that this was intentional, but the way I took from it, sorry, is we kind of get that perspective of someone like Vi. She's locked up inside. She doesn't know how long she's been locked up for, really, because days just blend in.
no,
And especially with her
she
being so
doesn't get
isolated.
locked up immediately because she's with the Fireflies. She sees Jinx and then gets locked up. That's not the same thing.
Before she met Caitlyn?
Because like before the time skip happens, but Jinx runs into we get an introduction of Jinx fighting the Fireflies, which Vi was a part of, that leads to her arrest. So it's like, it's really strange because the way that they painted it throughout the series was, oh, she's been inside the cell like after episode 5, like the entire time. It's like, but that doesn't make sense. Like she was with the Fireflies, and then Ekko says that, oh, you look good for a dead girl. It's like, but she was literally with you guys a few episodes ago. So what the hell? That's one of my biggest gripes. It's like, how the fuck do you have them meeting on an airship that they blow up at a hex gate? Jynx is there using her minigun, and then she knocks off her sister's mask, and then her sister gets captured. So it's just like,
oh, okay. So that wasn't actually Vi.
Yes, it was.
You're talking about the girl that Jynx shot at?
No, that is this girl. That's Vi that got shot at on the ship. She did get, and then she stops her from shooting her with her pistol, which is called Zap. And like, she knocks her mask off and they see each other. That's how she gets in jail.
Okay, no. I might be cool because I thought that was someone that just looked like Vi.
Yeah, because Jynx ended up killing that girl.
No, she didn't kill her. She got away because she's like, oh my God, Vi? And it's like, Jynx?
I don't know. I got to rewatch that because I'm pretty sure that...
That is why I gave it a 7, because I was like, why is everyone saying that she's in jail? Why does Ekko say... Like, no, these bitches were with her. Unless I'm like messing it up because she thinks that everyone else is Vi, but that doesn't make sense for her story either. Because that would mean that any woman that Jynx sees after the time skip is her sister. So, like, from episode 3 to 5, like, just pay attention to it because it's like, that doesn't make sense. And it's like, if she's been in jail this whole time, what time period was it that she actually was in jail? Or was it from the point that she got caught from Silco's ship? You know?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's why I'm like really pissed about that.
Yeah. No,
just saying, like, I can be wrong. Like, you could be like messaging me Twitter later and be like, "Yo, Celeste, you fucked up. That wasn't right on the podcast. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about." I'm like, "Yeah, but you know."
Yeah, because I got the impression when I watched it is that when she knocked that girl's mask off, because I thought that was Vi as well, and she's looking at her. And then later on, she's saying something like, because she's going a bit crazy later on, saying something like, that wasn't Vi. Or, no, look, I think that wasn't her, she says. Says it wasn't her, that wasn't her. So I thought that was just something that just happened to look like Vi.
That doesn't make sense for her to not look like her. Like, for her not to be Vi, because in Jinx's mind, up until that point, to that raid, she thinks that Vi is dead. So that would make sense why she's telling herself, that's not Vi, that's not her, that's not her. Especially if Silco has been saying, oh, she's been dead the whole time. And that's why she, like, messes up his henchmen saying, you're a liar. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because she believes she's dead.
Okay. I think I know what you're saying. Right. So that was Vi, but she's trying to convince herself that it wasn't.
Correct.
Right. Okay. I think okay. Oh, right. Okay. In that case, yeah. I guess I must have misunderstood that. So that was Vi. Because I remember that scene with, I think it was in the beginning of episode 4, I think, that scene where, you see the fireflies and they're fighting, all got the mask on and da-da-da. And that girl's mask gets knocked, so she's got the purple hair and everything else. And then, I don't remember if she kills her or not, though. That bit, I'm not sure. I'm blanking on if she
I'm like 95% sure that she didn't kill her.
Does she shoot at her or so? I can't remember. Does she fire the gun?
She either fires her gun to knock off the mask, or she hits her with the gun to knock off the mask, but she doesn't kill that person.
Okay, and then later on she's like, it wasn't her. Okay, because she's trying to convince
herself. What I remember is like they were fighting on the ship, and this girl, she gets the mask knocked off, and it is Vi's face, but then like it snaps, like it does this, that whole weird glitch that Jynx has when she's going through her psychotic moments. It does this glitch and it shows the girl's real face. Now I don't remember clearly if Jynx kills her or not, but I'm pretty sure she does. I might be remembering that part wrong, but I know, like I'm very certain that it wasn't Vi, because like the whole thing where they reunited was where Jynx does that. She uses that you might know the name of it, Celeste, but she uses pretty much like that beacon.
Yeah, you're talking about the gas grenade.
Yeah, and it turns all blue and everything and all that.
Yeah.
That's the first time that they reunited. So I'm pretty sure that's what happened, but I'm definitely going to go back and look up that scene because now it's almost
We
like that
always
damn
gotta look back
Mandela
and be
effect.
like, you are wrong, you are right, you are wrong.
You know what?
This was
Because
right. Now
I
it's
felt,
giving everyone in this podcast to watch it again.
yeah, because I felt the way you explain it, Celeste, it does start to make a bit more sense in my mind the way you explain it. Because especially like a part of Jinx is her, descent into madness, if you will. So like it does kind of make sense that she's been fed all these messages from Silco all this time. In fact, I think there was a scene later on because like she gets mad at what's the girl Viv one of Silco's like the
Oh,
other
the lackey? Oh, I totally
yeah, the
don't know
one with
who
the
he is.
metal arm. She gets
Oh, I
mad at
might
her
be
because
looking
she
for
tells her that her sister's back in town. She's calling her a liar and ends up stringing her to the wall, right to the ceiling, holding up her ceiling. And when she
Yeah.
finds out that Vi is alive, I think there was a scene later on where she goes to Silco and saying that she's been here all this time, and she confronts him about it. So yeah, I felt the way you explained might. Yeah, I think that's something to. Okay, cool.
I'm trying to find her name because that's gonna be the plot.
Yeah, I think we might have just
Oh, her name
misunderstood
is
that.
Sevika.
Zavika, that's the one, yeah. Zavika, actually, let's
Definitely
think
not
about
a V.
Zavika a little bit, real quick, because I feel like her character kind of got bitched. Now, granted, I'm not familiar with the game too much, and maybe she's not even in the game. I don't know,
She's
but
not.
she's not. Okay, but I feel like her character kind of got bitched a little bit because, like, she came across as someone who's supposed to be a badass. Like, she had that kind of impression. She's got the arm, she's using the shimmer. Like, and this is at a point where they've worked out how to use a shimmer without it just turning into some crazy monster. She came across as somebody who can handle people, but it's like pretty much every time she got her ass kicked. She got her ass kicked by Powder. She gets her ass kicked by Vi. She just gets her ass kicked all the time. But but it's like, but even as she's coming across like she's supposed to be able to do something. It's like, what does she do? Do you know what I mean? It's like, what are you
No,
actually
I
doing?
mean, don't be so mean on her. Like, okay, for real, like I would say that she was handling Vi because they were pretty toe to toe. But Jinx kind of like what's that word? Like sweet punch when you get like a good
Sucker
knockout
punch.
hit. So yeah, she sucker punched her first. So like, of course you're gonna get your ass handed if you get sucker punched first. Like she had a whole bomb go off in her face. Like you're telling me that like you got a whole bomb going off in your face. But Sevika, I think she handled it pretty well, especially when that other crime lord came in. Like I had no clue what was gonna happen.
Oh yeah. That was pretty cool
like
scene, actually.
she
Yeah.
still handles herself. Like don't be so hard because like Vi's power is really just boxing and know how to street fight, like because Vander taught her. But like it wasn't until she actually gets her weapons that she's just like, oh yeah, I'm super badass. So like before she gets the weapons, she's actually weaker than Sevika.
Okay. What did you think of Zavika, Sweet?
I really liked her character. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was mad at the fact that she betrayed Vander, but I really liked her fucking character. Like, just that fight between her and Vi in the bar, that shit was fire. I don't care what anyone says. That's one of the scenes that you have to see. You have to watch it. Like, even if you are reluctant to watch the show or you're like, I'm not going to sit down and watch that show, at least watch that bar fight. This character right here is somebody that is like, listen, I'm doing what's best for me. And at the same time, she does respect authority, but it's authority that she has to respect, or she'll just go ahead and shit on you, like she did with Vander. With Silco, she was doing whatever he wanted, but at the same time, she was like starting to look at him like, listen, you're starting to mess up a lot of shit that's going on here just over this girl. And that also brings home to like my previous point that there are signs that Silco actually cares about Jinx, right? And I don't know, I felt bad for her only in a sense of like seeing what she was capable of. That means like if she was on the right side, she could have really flourished. Or even if she was if she stuck to Vander and helping him out, he probably would have survived. But she is such a great, how can I put it, a great pawn piece, for lack of better words, that she could really shift the tides of the game. At least in my opinion.
No, I
I,
agree.
yeah, I don't see her as one of those characters like, some characters I do feel like, not in this show, but in general, some characters they'll be really strong at one point and then nowhere it's like, all right, so this main character is just gonna fuck them up. I didn't see it like that. With her, it's like she went head toe to toe with Vi, but of course Vi is gonna be the winner, and not just because
She's a character in
she's
the
the
game.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, she's actually in the
But
game,
not
so she's
just
gonna make it
because of
through.
that. At least in the context of the story, like, because remember, I'm watching I was watching the show without knowing which characters are actually in the game or not. So the way I took it was like, all right, Vi won because Vi was trained by Vander. Vander was one hell of a fighter because everybody's like, gassing him up from the jump. They're like, yeah, Vander back in the day, talking about him like he was Iron Mike Tyson. So, and Vi was somebody that, like, you saw her train even when she was a kid, doing all this crazy shit, fighting and that's another thing. The animators, I'm not gonna go off on a tangent, but I just got to say the animators for this show are amazing. The people that I'm gonna mispronounce the word, choreograph the fights, really excellent. Because I'm not like a huge boxing fan, but I like watching random boxing matches sometimes. And the movements that she was making reminded me of a lot of the fights that I saw.
So they had great motion capture, probably.
Yeah.
Yes,
Great
they had,
fighters,
they had to. Because I do know for the art style, what they did was they made 3D models and then added like
the frame to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
the whole painting look that or like what Bandit said, oil painting look.
Watercolor, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, to me it looks like a watercolor. Maybe oil painting is a
No. It's cell shading.
yeah. No, what? So I mean, it's like if you ever see like a watercolor painting, that's kind of like what it looked like the art style it meant. Like it looked to me like, but I don't know. I used to what I used to do art. So watercolor is like how I describe it, but
Are you thinking of gouache?
kind of.
Or are you thinking of
Like
pastel?
gouache was kind of like a poor man's oil painting, like.
Okay.
But
I still think it's a good medium for
yeah,
some
because
people. It's not
watercolors
mine.
are kind of like a like if you had like the
Acrylic any
palettes,
day.
yeah, like you had like these sort of little tablets of paints, and you just use a lot of water. And it has this very kind of soft, like where the one color blends with another. It has this very kind of soft transition. That's what it looked like to me. But I don't know. Maybe I'm describing it wrong. But yeah, I remember we used gouache when I was in art. This is kind of going a little bit off topic, but yeah, I remember using gouache when I was doing art way back in school. And it was cool. Don't get me wrong. I didn't. It's fine. It's not rubbish, but yeah, it's pretty much poor man's oil painting. So.
No, I'm just trying to help you get to the artistic style that you're looking for. Because when I think of watercolor, I think of it like really not so vibrant. It's really watered down versus gouache has all the saturation that you want.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing as well, because watercolor, yeah, definitely is more kind of like lighter. So, but I just felt, I guess I was really kind of get it is that it had at least to my eyes, it had kind of very similar color transitions as a watercolor would have. But yeah, you're right, watercolor generally is a softer look, whereas the color sort of pops a lot more. So maybe watercolor isn't quite accurate. But yeah. We go with cell shading. It was a cell shading technique, so we just go with that. We just go with that.
Sorry.
You mentioned something quite interesting, Sweet, actually, about Sevika being on the right side or the wrong side. If she's on the right side, and that's something quite interesting about what is the right side, because on the Undercity you have these two main characters of Vander and Silco, who both, I guess, effectively want the same thing, but in different ways. And on the other over, right, you've got the topsiders, the council and their sort of governments and their reluctance to give the underworld its independence, the undercity its independence. So what is the right side? Like, from, say, I mean, we're following the story of Vi, and then we see Vi, how with Vanda. So from the viewer's point of view, we kind of look at Vi as the, say, good guy, so to speak. But ultimately, she's just doing what she's not really involved with the whole kind of politics of it. She really just wants to reunite with her sister. She doesn't really, at least not in the beginning anyway, care about this whole thing. She's just trying to live her life, do what she can. She's stealing this, stealing that. But then later on, it's just trying to get back to her sister, and she's only really involved with everything else because of Caitlyn and Powder, Jynx now being with Silco. But herself wasn't really trying to be involved with that whole thing. But from Silco trying to gain independence of the Undercity, Vanda also trying to gain independence of the Undercity, but his way of doing it was by making deals with the enforcers and that sort of thing, which Silco didn't like. Silco's way of doing it was more trying to, I guess, be more, say,
well, he was looking for more liberation.
Yeah. Whereas the topsiders, they just see it as, well, this is, the whole thing is Piltover. I think if I'm getting that right, the whole thing is Piltover. There's this part of Piltover that they call it Undercity, and there's part of Piltover they call it Topsiders. But as far as they're concerned, it's all Piltover, and they need to be governed and managed and controlled by us. So, what is the right side? Who is the good guy, really? Because everybody has their own ideals, but who is, say, right?
I mean, the thing is, for me, I feel like the topsiders, they just used, the Undercity as tools. Without the Undercity, fueling them, pretty much building what they needed, supporting them, they wouldn't be where they are. It's pretty much like it's almost like corporations, and then the actual workers, the small workers. That's the way I viewed it. So you treat people wrong for so long, and you're not even trying to help them, throw them a bone, anything, and you're just looking down on them. And the moment they try to go ahead and share the same space as you, you're disgusted. You can't blame them for how they're going to react. Of course, there's going to be chaos under there because that's all they have, really. They don't have any other escape. They don't have any other means. The conflict was building down there. There are some people like Vander and his people were trying to maintain peace, while the others are pissed off. They're like, we have to do something. We can't live like this. And it's not fair. And you can't fault them for feeling like that. And that's another reason why I think Silco is a good villain, because it's not like he's just a bad guy. Like, this guy had goals, and you can understand why he had, at least most of those goals in mind. The way how he went about it, of course, that's what made him the villain. But nonetheless, you can understand where he was coming from. It's similar to Victor. Victor ended up doing some bad things later on. Maybe it wasn't intentional, but his whole purpose was, with good intentions. Just like I believe Silco had good intentions, but eventually he just got so bitter and so angry, and that's what twisted him.
I would agree. Like, my thought was that the villain was Mel because she had the council in her hand.
Oh, right.
Mel's the council trick. But it's just like, they focus so much on her, and she's got a lot of money. And it's just like, oh, if you have money, you can sway the council's decision to do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, there was so many times, like, this is what I hated the most about it. It was like, why is there a council in Piltover? Is this their way of democracy? Okay, then who are these people? And it's just like, anytime that they showed these people, I was like, who the fuck, what do you do? And they'd be like, oh, our profits are going to go down. And I'm like, so you're just rich fat cats. Okay, yeah, I probably want to overturn you too, because you're just helping like the house name of blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, look, they're like, you have your enforcers wearing masks to go to the lower part of your city, and you don't think that's a good, like, that's okay for them to do that? Yeah, you guys are definitely the bad guys because you don't give a fuck about the rest of the people that you govern. Like that's awful. So those are the bad guys in my opinion. So I also didn't like the council at all, despite Heimerdinger. Okay, like my boy, like he's
Yes, my
like
boy.
ancient. But like he has the best interest of like furthering education. So whoever was in charge of actually governing like the people to be better, um, they weren't doing a good job. And then like there's a lot of times that in the show where they're like, oh well, Heimerdinger like let this go on, and he's like the one who founded the council. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, look, you just need a scapegoat, asshole. Don't do this to my little Yordle, okay? That's what he is. He's a Yordle. For anyone who doesn't know, that's what his race is called. Is cute little like fuzzy creatures. But it's like, yeah, the council of Piltover is definitely my like. You guys, you're the villains. Like Silco, I think wanting to liberate and have something better for people is good. Like it sucks that you got to use drugs and kill people, but no one said that it was easy to have like freedom. Everyone had to fight for it. That's his
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think there's always that thing, isn't it, where it's like, you mentioned Bundy mentioned about sort of having good intentions and how there's this old saying that people say that the path, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I feel that kind of comes into this a little bit because it's like you have these good intentions, you want something that is noble and is understandable, and people are on your side about. But then it's like how you go about it matters, and I think that's where Silco kind of falls into the villain side of it because he does want what's good for the Undercity, but how he goes about it. So he's kind of like the not so good guy, so to speak. And then the council being these people, and now this is perhaps me speculating a little bit, but I feel like the council perhaps at one time started off again with good intentions, in terms of, governing the top side and the undercity. And then as the money grew, as the prosperity of the city grew, what tends to happen is that people become fearful of the more you have, the more you fear of losing. So then it becomes a case of, well, how do you keep certain people from rising up to take what you have? And that's for when the enforcers sort of come into it. That's where the unfair treatment starts coming to it. That's the kind of impression that I'm getting. But yeah, I'm probably speculating a little bit too much in that. But it did kind of seem like that sort of thing that was going on, where you have people being sent to the Undercity to effectively keep them in check so that they can keep what they have and get more of what they have, and also create a impression of we're doing the right thing. Because I think sometimes when people know how you get stuff, it's not always so pleasant. When people know how certain things are made, how certain things are done, when the gritty details behind it, it's not always so good. So I feel like there's this kind of way of keeping the Undercity separate from the top side, so that the people on the top side can kind of live on and in somewhat blissful ignorance of everything that's going on. That's yeah.
And yeah, well, that's the whole thing.
Might be a little
too,
speculation in there.
like, dude, like when Jayce becomes like head councilman, dude, like he orders the enforcers to go to all the bridges so that the Undercity can't cross over. And like it's kind of like what you're saying. It's just like, well, why would you do that? Like, if they were just treated properly, like this wouldn't be a problem. And I mean, that's like some of the later episodes politics too. So it's like, yes, it's too late for peace. It's like, yeah, think they can't breathe. Damn it! You got to use masks. Shit.
Let's talk about Jayce a little bit, actually, because I thought he was quite an interesting character as well, in terms of, he started off as this guy who just wanted to combine magic and science, and being told that it's dangerous, but, going ahead and doing it anyway with the help of Victor. And then when it becomes this thing and they can use it, and it brings more prosperity to the City of Progress, then he's been elevated to the position on the council, which is something they haven't done before to have. I think it was like a 6 seat at the table, I think they said, or whichever number it was, it's something they haven't done before, so that's a big deal. And then being on the council, and then him going against his mentor Heimerdinger, and him being the primary reason or the instigator of why Heimerdinger ends up being ousted from the council. And then you've got Jayce realizing that the council itself is not fit to govern the Undercity. So he has quite a journey in himself as a character, from where he started to where he ends, and all the things he kind of sees and does in between. Celeste, what was your thoughts on Jayce's character? By the way, is Jayce in the game as well? I think you said he's in the game.
Yeah,
right?
he's in the game.
He's in the game. Okay.
He's one of the champions that I don't use, but it's really interesting to see that he created Hex Tech, and Hex Tech is like a really big thing inside the games. It feels few of the characters. I believe Singed is definitely one of them, and he's in the game as well. In Arcane and in the game, which was a really big shock when I figured that one out. But with Jayce, I don't know him too much, but just to see him go from like, oh yeah, I'm the college guy, now I control the whole city, and I'm banging the mayor chick. Like it's like this development was so strange.
Can't lie, that Mel was hot though. Still, can't I ain't gonna front on that. That Mel was hot.
I'm just like, you got that drip going. Just like, so are you getting with him because he's got power, or do you actually like him? Like that kind of relationship just seemed, I don't know, it rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm just like, okay, so you're writing this female chick with tons of power hitting on the young kid. Like, are they close in age or something, or does she find him attractive? Like, does she just want some puh, like being like mixed around, mac and cheese? Like, what's going on? And it's just like, I don't know where this is going, but sure. But she's on the council, and now she's with him, and he's a council member, and I'm just like, okay, that pisses me off. But Jayce's like journey was okay in the beginning, because like I love the fact that he like helped discover Hex Tech with Victor, because Victor like was with him, and there is lore with him and Victor, but it doesn't end like this sort of way. It's similar, but it's not exact. But with Jayce, I'm just like, I didn't think of him as a pacifist when we get to the later episodes. So I was just like, what the hell? So you just want to act with words and votes, and like now you go in and then you like off someone, and now you're just like, oh, I can't fight anymore. I'm just like, you're a waste of a champion. Why is it like this? So I don't know. I really disliked his ending, like where they put him, because he's like a really like strong champion in the game, in my opinion. Like one of his moves is like he takes the hammer and he literally like slam dunks it on your head. So I'm just like, okay, that's not in the show, but not represented well. That you are a pacifist.
Actually, with this being set before the game, I mean, I'm somewhat assuming that it's quite a while before the game, if there's going to be potentially a season 2, maybe even a season 3, 4, 5. Like, I mean, would you say there's potentially time for him to develop into what the game becomes, or are these events too close to where the game starts?
I wouldn't say it's too close, because where we're at with the game, like if like you just jump straight into the game and you don't have any of the skins or anything, like the skins tell different storylines, but Jynx is definitely like in her mid-20s versus where we end with Arcane, where she's like beginning of 20s potentially, Vi is definitely a lot older, and she has like a little bit more of like a stockier build at that point. So she's packed on a lot of muscle. So I definitely think that they have room to improve, especially because they only tackled 2 key locations within the Riot universe or League of Legends like world map, because they liberated they liberated Zaun. That's the Undercity, and that was like a huge key point of like what happens at the end, and then Piltover. So what I foresee, and this is a hypothesis, it's not a theory, but what I foresee is that maybe Jayce would get like really upset that like potentially Mel dies from Jinx's rocket, which is her ultimate. I play Jinx. And it's kind of like I could see that happening, but with the other characters, I don't know where they would take it. So
okay. Bundy, what was your thoughts on Jayce and his character arc?
Jayce, like I said, he was well, he was a part of that whole. I don't want to say trope because it almost sounds like a bad thing, but I'm not intending it to. That trope of a good, a complicated character, just like Silco. He has his good and he has his bad ways. Now, Jayce, for the most part, he comes off as this good guy, but as the story progresses and he gets a little older, I don't want it to sound like they aged him up that much, but you get to see him start to make decisions that you're like, is that good? Are you the good guy? Are you sure? Even Victor, who was his like right hand man at one point, Victor's turning around and looking at him like, what the fuck did you just say? I love those moments because I hate when characters are just black and white. Like you're purely good, you're purely bad. I love to see it that gray area because that's who people are in general. Nobody's ever 100% good, nobody's ever 100% bad, really. You have elements. Now, of course, you can have like 1% or whatever in some cases, but I'm sorry if you hear that noise. I don't know why the fuck my neighbor is. Anyway,
I thought somebody making coffee or something.
In short,
okay.
I love Jayce.
I was like, am I chewing too loud?
I don't know what the fuck is with my neighbors. Like, it's literally 12:19 p.m. over here, and they gotta do dumb shit like that. So I apologize. But anyway, yeah, I love Jayce.
Yeah, it's during the day. I think that's appropriate, right?
Yeah.
It's
not for this noise. Like, wait till like the afternoon. People are still like some people are still waking up around noon. Okay, like for me personally, my morning begins at 10 a.m. on most days, unless I have to work early. 10 a.m. is my morning, right?
That used to be my morning. My morning used to be 2 p.m. too.
Nah, you look just burning daylight.
I'd probably be like, stop that racket! I'm not here to sleep. I was playing League too late. Sorry, go on.
And sometimes around noon, I'm still waking up. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Right now, I'm still waking up a little bit. I had a long week. So to hear noise like that, like that's startling. And plus,
it's Wednesday.
I don't care what day it is. I don't want them to do it.
I had a long week. It's halfway through, buddy.
It's like halfway through the week. Man's just ready to be like, I'm call it quits already. Like, okay.
I'm ready for my child to be 2 years old. Let's go. So we can go to Disneyland with you.
See, now we know why Sweet Bunny doesn't show his face, by the way. This is the real reason Sweet Bunny don't show his face. It's like, I've had a long week. My morning at 8 just started. It's 12 p.m.
He's got cucumbers on his face.
Right, you know what I mean? Just like
mask,
still waking up.
Coffee, little hair wrap.
Listen, I go to sleep sleepy and I wake up sleepy.
Oh, that sounds like you're part of the Seven Dwarfs now. You're sleeping.
Got a long ass bed and everything. I hope.
And now, no noise. So what were they doing? Because if you're going to do construction, it's going to last for a while. What the fuck are you doing?
They knew
are you literally yelling at your window at your neighbor?
I hope they hear me.
I mean, feel free to pause
pissing you off.
Podcast with us. We'll just entertain ourselves hearing how pissed you are.
That's pretty much it.
You have to yell at them like, hey, I'm on a damn podcast. Stop making your fucking noise.
No. You can make it more official. You can be like, hey, I'm working here.
Yeah, that's a New York thing, isn't it? Hey, I'm walking here.
You're in New York. I don't understand why you didn't do that. But is that too stereotyping? It's like stereotypical? Like, should I not?
You know what's funny? I saw this video and I don't know if it's legit or not, but this guy, he's like visiting New York and he's making a TikTok or something like that. And somebody bumped into him, which is normal in New York.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I'm walking over here. And he's just joking. And then this lady got really pissed off and said, you don't fucking say that. You don't fucking say that. You gotta find that video.
All
I
right.
think I
telling you.
might have seen it, but it's like we don't say that here. Like
Yeah.
something like that. I think I've seen it. It's like she's like a larger set woman, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen it.
All right.
That
Cool.
shit was hilarious.
You have
But
to
anyway,
find that video.
you have to. But yeah, all right. So
Yeah.
now that these motherfuckers are quiet,
Yeah. Good
In
little
short-
sidetracked. We're okay now. We're okay now.
yeah, in short, Jayce is a good character. He's flawed, and I love characters that are flawed. I do not like perfect characters. Um, I like seeing how he goes from this guy who has like a pure heart, to the point where he's like, listen, we have to do this and we have to do that, and then he has to make decisions that you're like, oh man, like to your boy, I'm gonna mispronounce his name, so help me out.
Heimerdinger.
Heimendinger.
Yes.
When they voted to kick him out,
Oh,
I was like,
was so
oh
heartbroken.
shit. He had to walk that long haul all sad. It was like the Green Mile.
that
Man,
was so heartbreaking.
I felt bad for him, but I like moments like that where he has to make decisions. And even the biggest decision when he was speaking to Silco, and Silco's like, listen, we could get peace, but I want this or whatever. I forgot the exact deal, but Silco put Jynx on the line, allegedly.
No. Like that's what Jayce's terms were. Jayce is like, you can have everything if I get Jynx of your
Yeah.
group.
Yeah, thank you.
I got you.
And
Yeah.
I really like that moment, because Jayce is like, everybody's like, what the fuck are you thinking making deals with this guy? But Jayce is thinking logically. He's like, listen, this is the easiest way. We go to war, people are going to die. And at that point, he already accidentally killed a kid. So
It
Jayce
wasn't
is
just
done with
anyone's
war.
kid either.
Oh,
It
yeah?
was one of the crime lord's kids.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're right. And fucking Silco, oh, man, he said something cold to her.
Yes. The lady,
Oh,
she comes.
man.
Yeah.
That was really hurt
man.
because, like, I'm a mom now, like a 2-month-old mom. But it's just like, dude, going through the whole birthing thing, that shit sucks. But it's like once you have the baby out, it's like, oh my god. So it's like seeing a baby die, like, or be dead. That's like that one hit hard. Like I did cry. So go on. That's all I
Yeah,
have.
I mean, no, I remember that scene now. I just remember Silco was just like, pretty much like, well, fuck it. But here's the interesting part about that. He cared so much about Jynx, like as if she was his daughter, his own daughter, that he didn't show any sympathy towards that woman whatsoever. Not even an ounce. He didn't give a fuck about that. Yet he already was caring about this this girl that he kind of raised, but he didn't raise her for like, since birth. He just adopted her. And don't get me wrong, again, family isn't about blood, but this woman, like you said, gave birth to this child, raised this child. This child is hers, no matter what. Whereas Silco's in a position where if Jynx snapped out of it and was like, back where she was before this all started, it's not like he could go ahead and say, after everything I've done for you, you're my daughter, da-da-da. He can say that shit, but, it's not as strong as what's legitimate. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was very interesting.
Well, the thing is, he wanted to keep her as Jynx, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if she reverted back to Powder, he'd be like left with nothing. And I think he secretly wanted to hold on to that. Because it's like, why else would he want her away from Vi so much? If anything, he probably could have tried to have Vi on his side. If Jynx could, like, manipulate her to work for Silco. Even though Vi knows, like, she would never work for him. But it's like, it's possible. But he didn't want that.
Yeah. I think it showed that he was afraid of that. Like you said, he didn't want that to happen. And it's weird because it's like you could really see that in the last scene, or the last scenes, or his last scene, I should say, where he's fighting with her. He's like, listen, don't listen to her. Don't pay attention to anything she's saying.
Yeah, and the other part too is like throughout some of the episodes when he was trying to take Shimmer, and then she's like, "Let me help you," and she kept missing and stabbing his face. Like
Yeah,
anyone, like he was just like taking it in the cheek, and I was like, "Holy
Mhm.
fuck! Why are you so calm? Like she's just on top of you with that. Like she can't kill you with that." And so it's just like you could tell like he had some different kind of respect for Jinx in that
Yeah.
essence. But you're right, like he really did show like the greatest amount of like I don't want to say love, but like caring to her at the end of the episode. And he's like, I wouldn't turn you in, blah blah blah. And then she's like, no, I'm sorry.
Hmm. What really confirmed it for me was, while he's dying, he could have said anything. I thought he was gonna say something really hateful to her, and that was gonna, throw her off the edge. But instead, he maintained that he wouldn't, turn her in, like you said, and that he loved her and all that. I don't know if he said that, but basically, that's what he
yeah,
conveyed.
yeah. Zaka would
So
never gave you them or gave them to you
yeah,
or
so
gave you to
that's what
them
I really
rather.
liked. I
Yeah.
really like that because they could have easily gone the route of he reveals that he was always a piece of shit, but no, this guy was just twisted and distorted by his hatred and the unfairness, and he didn't know how to handle it like someone like Vander, who was obviously stronger, um, stronger and more than just physique, but mentally and emotionally. He was the guy that held everything together, and once he was dead, like everything fell into shambles because he was the rock, that held everybody together and everything. Um,
Mm.
Man, this show was good.
Yeah, gets a little deep. Gets a little deep. You actually mentioned something though, real quick. And by the way, we're not going to talk about every single character. I know it'd be fair,
Mhm.
but you did mention something quite interesting about the mother character. And she's not in the show a lot. She's only in maybe one or two episodes.
Who?
Uh,
Jace's mom?
no, the mother, the one whose kid was killed.
Oh, the crime
The
lord
crime
mom.
lord.
Yeah. Um,
I don't even know what her name
I
is.
mean, as that, you have somebody who is a crime lord. Effectively, they're in a life of danger where these things can and do happen. But then at the same time, you say this is a mother. This is somebody who gave birth to a whole human and then raised that human into this world. Like, I mean, I'm not sure what my question is really, to be honest, but it's like, how do you feel like where it's like, at what point do you say you create you part of who your child become is because you're in this world in this of crime with Silco, with what he's trying to do. Bearing in mind Silco's trying to liberate the Undercity, so he's technically not a criminal in their minds, but the way he's going about it is criminal. At what point do you look at a situation and say, well, this is my doing versus, this is just, no, I don't even know what my question is, but just, but yeah, I mean, how do you separate, or can you even separate the feeling of a mother losing her child from the fact that this is the world that they chose to be in, where these things can and do happen?
Well, first and foremost, if you're a crime boss, like, I looked up her name. Her name's Rennie.
Rennie.
She's not in the game, by the way. Um, like, if you're one of the top dogs in the Undercity, you should be able to afford to send your child across the way to the Upper City, right? Like, I feel
Right.
like you like kind of what happened with Victor, right? He was able to work his way into the upper city. So it's like I don't know why your specific child crime boss lady is working in the mines with Shimmer. Like that whole storyline kind of pissed me off because it's like, okay, you're worried about your kid did die. But did you not realize that your kid is working in the mines where Shimmer is being excavated and then the plant where it's being created? Like, you know what it does to all these people. So it's like, okay, I don't know. You're kind of fucking it up because not only are you like a crime boss, but you're not going to see like the Godfathers, like those old movies. I haven't really watched it, but you're not gonna see their kids not going to like a Catholic school or something and being like, oh yeah, we're gonna send you a public school where you can get stabbed or something. Like it doesn't make sense how her specific kid shouldn't be like treated more special instead of like, oh yeah, he's just a little minion of mine. I don't give a fuck. Like I'm gonna let him work in the mines, and if it collapses on him, then he fucking dies. But it's like, oh no, the Upper City enforcers kill him. It's your fault. It just doesn't make sense, right? Like if you're a crime boss, you should have enough money to have him like be kind of tutored and educated to be able to exit the Undercity. I don't know. It's like it just seems kind of like, okay, so you're just keeping all the money in your pocket and you're making your son work on top of that.
Do we know how high up she was in the crime boss world, or because I'm guessing she wasn't the boss, right? She doesn't come across as that kind of character.
Yeah. So
yeah, and it seemed the other guy with the jaw was the one doing most of the talking. But then she certainly had no issue walking into that room and addressing Silco directly. So, I mean, I guess she's not high level, but she's got to be reasonably. I mean, to be able to have that kind of sort of confidence, be like, I could just walk into this room. And for example, like there was a scene where I think it was Jayce's mum, where she's addressing the council and she's almost begging them, to a degree. Whereas this lady is just like full on just walking in and just like talking at Silco. And so I feel like to do that, there's either you either got to be high enough rank to do that without thinking this guy's just going to kill me, or this guy's just set. You know what I mean? You go high enough rank to know that's not going to happen, or you just reach the point that you just do not care.
Right. Yeah. So like, the way that I kind of saw it when they had that whole like scene of like the jaw guy, I don't even see his name here, Finn, apparently. I have a cheat sheet. So when Finn was like going off, it was like, let's usurp Silco. And I'm just like, who the fuck are all these people? And why does that chick look hot? Okay, like that's not cool. I need to know who that bitch is. Still a side, like not even a side character. She's a background character. So basically, the Undercity with Silco had developed their own council with the chemicals, and so like that's who she was. So she was like underneath Silco, but like still extremely high up.
Okay.
I don't know.
So yeah, she should have been able to send her kids to a better school. when it comes down, she should have been able to send her kids to a better school, or at least certainly not be in that position anyway. You know, she should have done better.
Yeah, it says here under her profile on the fandom site, she's a Chem Baroness and the boss of the Sledge Runners, and I'm just like, okay, that's fine. There is a new character that came out that is a Chem Baroness, and she's pretty fun.
So let's talk about Jynx. Powder/Jynx. Started off as Powder, little girl. She's hanging out with her big sister Vi and all the other delinquents in the Undercity. You know, they're breaking into people's houses, stealing stuff. She's helping them out, but she's a bit of a klutz. You know, makes these bombs that don't really work. Ends up blowing up a whole building because she picks up something she shouldn't have picked up. She's feels betrayed by her sister after she overhears the conversation she had with one of the other guys. She ends up with, after Vander dies, before that, she ends up killing a bunch of people that realizing, pisses off her sister even more. They get into a fight. She even gets smacked by Vi at one point. She ends up with a Silco who takes her in. Perhaps because he wanted to just piss off the other people to begin with. Perhaps, we never really know. But certainly by the end of it, he does really care about her. So she spent a lot of her adult teenage years with this guy. And then by the end of the season, she blows up the council just as they were agreeing to peace with the Undercity. But yeah, you mentioned about her and her mental health. What did you feel like Vi's story represented in terms of her journey, her mental health, what she herself was trying to do. Like, what did that all mean to you, Celeste? Sorry, maybe
Oh, okay. I was
address the
like,
question a bit better.
who you asking? So I am an older sister, and I could see that she tried to hold it together. She was like trying to be the glue, the parent, and an older sister all in one because that's all they got. And she wanted to give a better life for her sister. So mentally, she's like, if I'm not the strong one who can lead her to have something better than what she has right now, I'm nothing. And she wanted to protect. And that was her whole thing of, I need to get back to my sister and I need to protect her. And I need to stop this crime boss who is potentially like making things worse for my sister. So I would dare say that Vi's journey was very like one-sided, and it got a little bit of layers, but it didn't really evolve too much more of, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go around, punch some stuff, try to take down a crime boss. Oh, look at this hot piece of like rich ass over here. It's like, I didn't know you swung that way, but I don't mind. Like, what's next? What was the question?
So I was actually asked about Jynx, by the way, but that was cool.
Oh, yeah.
We thought of Jynx, but you know, it's cool. It's cool. We got what you thought of Vi. That,
I
I
just
guess
went
that
off
saves a
on
bit
a
of time
tangent,
later
and
on.
I don't know why.
But that's all right. So what did you think of Jinx's
So
character?
Jinx's mental health journey, I think it was really well represented because when she lost her parents, let's say roughly around the age of 4, and then she started having to like steal shit with her sister around the age of 6 to 8 potentially. Like, that's really impressionable on a young kid to realize, oh, you're living in a shithole. Oh, your shit doesn't work. You fuck up everything you do. You're no good. And to have that happen with potentially 2 older adopted brothers really will weigh down on you and like affect your mental health in a sense of like abandonment is like really strong because they're always saying, you're not good enough for this run yet. You're not good enough. You're not ready. And it's like, when can I prove that I'm ready? And that's what she wanted the entire time when Milo and Clagger were alive. And she wanted to prove it the most to her sister that she could do it. And that's why she like freaked out when they all went on to save Vander. And she's like, no, I can do this too. Like, I know it will work because I know this time. But because she wasn't part of the mission prop, like, yeah, you ended up killing everyone. But it's like you can see that descent of like abandonment, anxiety coming from a child. And at first, when I first saw it, like not really paying attention, I'm like, why the fuck is she flipping out? She just needs to wait at home. But I didn't realize the time frame of how long she didn't have her real parents. Her like Vander is like working, so he's not really around either. So it's just Vi. And so if Vi is gone and she has to be alone and she has no stimulation of like real love or like family value, it's gonna weigh really hard and fuck with her mind. And that's why she freaks out when they leave her. And then when she like jumps to Silco ship when she's like, that's not my sister. It's like the one person that cared about you the most, like finally snapped because you couldn't do it right, even though you did do it right. In your mind, it was bad for someone else, obviously, because they're all dead. So she relinquishes it, but in her heart, she still wants it. And you can see this huge mental battle of like, I can go back. It's okay. Like, she's alive. My sister. Yay. Like, I can finally prove that I can be of use. And like, I'm of use to Silco. So it's just this really big mental health thing of like from childhood to potentially early 20s of working your way through anxiety, abandonment issues, and then trying to find that, I don't want to say familial love or familial piety per se, but finding what's the word? Like recognition and belonging. And she's always wanted that. And that still hits like with a lot of people, whether they realize it or not. So it's like, oh yeah, this is what she wants. She wants to belong. And that's why she hates Caitlyn, because she took Vi away from her. Mm-hmm. Like she hates like Silco lying to her because she's like, well, Vi could have wanted to be with me, but you took away that option. So that's the whole thing about mental illness that I'm like, oh, okay, well, abandonment issues and needing to belong somewhere is really strong.
Indeed, yeah. I think that like I said before, it didn't really occur to me about the whole mental health thing until you mentioned it. But yeah, it's definitely in there about this whole thing with Jinx, especially, and her, being that child that just wants to help, but isn't good enough, and perhaps knows in her own mind that she's not really good enough or wants to believe she is. And then the one person who did have her back all that time is telling her to sit this one out, you know. And I remember there was actually an episode of Friends where Ross was writing up all these like pros and cons about Rachel, and one of the cons he wrote was something about her ankles, and then Rachel, of course, ends up seeing a note, and she's really upset by it. And of course, he's apologizing, blah blah blah. But one of the things that Rachel said, what stuck out to me, was that how would you feel if all the insecurities you feel about yourself get confirmed by somebody else, or something along those lines. And all right, okay, so just something popped up. But yeah, also something along those lines, and perhaps that was that in some way where Jinx is kind of feeling all these things about herself. I know they don't mention it specifically, but perhaps she's feeling all these things about herself, and she's hearing Clanger say, she's hearing Milo say it, but Vi, being the one person always had her back, and then not only overhears part of that conversation where it feels like she doesn't, then when Vander's in danger, and like this is like the real mission. This is like when the time for her. She's like, I need you to sit this one out, And so it's like confirming all those things. I am a fuck up. I'm not that good. I make mistakes. I'm a klutz. I'm incompetent. All these things, I guess, is kind of confirmed to her, but her just, by Vi saying that. And yeah, like you say, that's weighs on her mind, that all these things she doesn't want to believe, but is kind of forced to believe. And then Silco being that guy that came along at the right time for her, and perhaps gave her this sense of confidence of being this person who took her for how she is and showed her whether it's love or a form of love for who she is, and it kind of embraced the chaos that she was in her becoming Jinx, even though that wasn't necessarily a healthy
No,
way
definitely wasn't healthy.
of dealing with it. But ultimately, it's kind of like like the sense of belonging, like you said, that just wanting to show that she's good. And with Silco's perhaps found that that she, in a crazy state of mind, was good enough, and didn't have to say change or did whatever. It was just that this is who she is and how she can be. And yeah,
that was something that I totally forgot. Okay, so the one episode where they're trying to cross the bridge by Ekko, Caitlyn, and Jinx, and then like Jinx gets like majorly fucking hurt and shit, and like Silco is like, I don't care what it takes, just make sure she lives. I was like, I was really taken away by that, because like he's carrying her in the baby like position, like princess position, of like, oh, I'll take care of you, I'm bringing you home, not like you're a piece of ass, let's go.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's unbecoming of you, a crime lord of the Undercity. So I thought that was something that she doesn't know. And then when she finally goes through her operation with Singe, that's when she really looks like her kind of in-game character model for League. So I was like, okay, now I get you. I know who you beat.
Yeah.
But that was something that I was like, that just destroyed her. So I think any kind of like if you already have like mental health issues, and then you go through like a very traumatic like near-death experience, let's just say, that will probably change you for the rest of your life as well. But he was pushing that like the entirety. He's like, you gotta let go of powder. You gotta let go of powder. You need to just be Jinx. And he's like, I'll drown you if I need to. It's like, oh.
Yeah, that baptism almost, the death of one and the rebirth of another. Sweet Bundy, you good?
Yeah.
Hello.
What was
like you get your neighbor?
It's silent now. I think it might just stay silent for a long time, right? It's just Sweet Bundy took care of that. what was your thoughts on Jinx and her character development throughout the series?
Well, first off, I already like before I even saw anything on Jinx besides stuff that anybody would see because she's like the face of League of Legends. So it's pretty much impossible not to know who she is at this point, or at least know of her. Um, I like characters like that. I'm a big Harley Quinn fan or whatever, and Jinx is similar to Harley Quinn. However, um, in this show specifically, I really, really, really like this character. I love the way they visualize what's going on in her head. They had some creepy ass scenes if you're really paying attention, and you could miss it because again, the show has such great art that you'll be looking here and there, and then you'll miss something else that's going on. Uh, a couple of the people that I watched the show with, I would bring up, oh man, did you see this part or whatever? And they'd be like, no, and I have to go and rewind and show them. Like, for example, there's this scene where she's on the roof or on that place where she was meeting Vi, and like the voices start going through her head and the camera starts to rotate, and like on her back, you see like a shadow of Milo, like screaming in pain or something like that. And it was interesting too when you think about it, because most of the times when she's like hearing a voice or seeing somebody from her past talk, it was Milo. And I was always wondering like why. You don't really see Vander too much or
Clagger.
Clogger. And I'm like, I get it now. Milo was the one that used to constantly, criticize her. Constantly. So this guy, even though he's dead, is still in her head that she's being criticized. He's almost like, I don't want to say a moral compass, but somebody to keep her in that state of mind, like you ain't shit, you're nothing. Now I'm not trying to blame Milo because I get it from Milo's point of view. She was like an annoying little sister. He didn't mean anything really like hateful about it. At the end of the day, he was a kid. But long story short, with Jinx, you hit it right on the head by bringing up abandonment issues. I know somebody who has that same kind of mental issue, and a lot of the things, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not exaggerating, a lot of little ticks or whatever. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like this person just starts freaking out and like having all these visuals.
And like starts screaming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, okay. I will say this. All jokes aside, they will sometimes, depending on the situation, start screaming. And in their case, they're like, in an extreme case or whatever, right? So for me, watching this character do all this shit, I'm like, yeah, of course some of it is theatrical, but there's some substance behind it because I've actually seen somebody act like this a little bit. So it really stood out to me. I mean, that's just my experience on it. I can't really, expect people to be like, yeah, I could expect a real person to have some of these traits. Legitimately, I know somebody with some of these traits, and I was like, damn. And it almost made me. I mean, I'm already cool with the person. Like the person is a close friend of mine's, but it made me sympathize with them even more to kind of see like I'm just watching a fucking show that's based off a damn game that I never played. And yet now I'm starting to see things that's resonating with me with this character who was supposed to be like this outlandish character who was supposed to be the Harley Quinn of her own thing. And I'm sorry if people hate when I say that, but
it's kind of true though. Like you're not. It's not wrong. She's called the loose cannon. That's her nickname in the game because all the champions, all the characters in the game get like a nickname. So, like Harley Quinn being like a loose cannon, you don't know what she's going to kind of do next unless it's for Joker. It kind of makes sense. So you aren't wrong.
Well, I'm glad. I will say this too. You just reminded me. After this show, I ended up going and look. They had like some music video of Jynx.
Oh, are you talking about Get Jinxed? That was
Yes.
the best. Okay, so okay, not to cut you off, but okay.
No, go ahead.
So when they released her, they released that music video called Get Jinxed, and I was like, holy fuck, this is the best. And I wasn't actually playing League at that time. My ex was, and I had to start playing League because of him. Anyways, that came on, and I was like, oh my god, that was such a good song. Like, legit. Yeah. And then they put it in Arcane, so there you go.
And yeah, they had like when she was listening to music while fucking with the hex
crystal.
The what?
Hex crystal.
Yeah. And I was like, what is that song? So I looked it up, and I saw the music video, and she, she's just as fucking crazy in the music video as she is in the show. Man, overall, I really like this character, man, and it's kind of sad to see where she had potential to go back to who she was, to be Powder. But then when that happened with Silco, and she lost Silco, it was like almost losing another father. She ended up killing. Again, it doubles down on what she did, because she's the reason why Milo, Clogger, and Vander are dead, right?
Well, I mean, Milo, Clogger, yes, absolutely. Vander died because he used Shimmer and his body couldn't take it.
Yeah, but the thing is that he would have escaped.
Yeah, he would have escaped if she didn't do that.
Yeah, so in a way, I would feel like she would take responsibility for that too, or have some guilt about it. But my point is, like, she ended up killing Silco, but she didn't really want to kill him. It was just a moment where she just went fucking nuts. And I think that's when it really all clicked. Like, yeah, this is who I am. I'm a fuck up. And she just accepted that. Even if that's not the truth. Like, she just owned it and just said, fuck it. This is the better way.
Yeah,
like,
that's the truth, all right. Every single job. It's like when they had to hide. Why would you hide like that and hold on to something? You're the weakest one. Just sit down on a pipe. Like, just sit on a pipe or something. Hide inside a box. Why are you holding it like this? I was like, really?
Well, I really want to ask you,
you're supposed to be a genius kid. Like, go on, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Well, I really want to ask you though, but I beg you to be careful, because like if they do a season 2, I'm watching it. I'm watching it instantly. Now, as best as you can.
Careful?
Huh?
Why do we have to be careful?
Oh, I'm about to go into it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
What I want to ask is, like, some of these characters, right? Like, again, I had never played the game. The only game that I played that's similar to League of Legends is Smite, which is, you already know. But anyway, I want to know, how did you feel about the characters being translated into this story versus the game? Like, what, your thoughts on the character, what you knew about the character in the game, and then you see them in the show. Like, did they justify it? Did they reveal stuff that, you liked better in the game than the show, or vice versa, stuff like that?
So I think the only one that I like, even with Heimerdinger, he's my main, I think the one character that I just think was like trashily written towards the game itself was Jayce. Like, Singe, like the guy that fixes Jynx, he's in the game, and he's known for doing experiments. Like, this guy's not nice. He fucks around with a lot of the other characters. Victor, I think he's on the right path for being the character that he's supposed to be in the game. Heimerdinger, definitely where he's supposed to be. Same with Ekko. Vi, like, Vi is supposed to turn into, like, when we first got Vi, she's an enforcer first and foremost. And then it was supposed to be that, like, she's just an enforcer like Caitlyn. So Caitlyn and her are just enforcers, and they work in Piltover. But there was no, like, love thing going on, no Kai going on there. So there was that. Let's see, who else was in the game? Who else was there? I can see them expanding more, because at the end, what was that? What was it? God damn it. They brought in the other nation where Belle's family is from.
Yeah.
what is it called? What is it called? Okay, give me a second. But I could see them bringing in another nation and attacking because that's huge. What the? Okay, there's Demacia versus what? Okay, that's gonna bother me. Give me a second. Um, Darius.
I really do like that mother character, the mother of Mel.
Rena? Rennie?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he. I don't know. I
Noxus!
just Noxus.
Nexus.
That's the name
Oh
of
Yes.
the
yeah. Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So Noxus is complete totalitarian, like you have to be part of the military or you fucking need to just submit. Because there's so many videos of Noxus going up to other kind of lands and just being like, no, you need to submit, become part of Noxian territory. You don't need this crown. I'm gonna smelt it into like a new sword and then you're gonna take up arms. And I could totally see that happening. And then they like bring in the Hand of Noxus and stuff. That I hope that happens because why else would they say like Mel's family is from the land of Noxus or Noxus?
Mhm.
So yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay. All right. Cool. Let's talk a little bit about Vi now. Vi, Vivi, was it Violet? It's
Yeah,
Violet.
her name's
Right,
Violet, but she goes
Um,
by Vi.
or V, or
No, it's Vi.
Six. She
No,
had the she had a Roman
Vi
numerals
stands
tattoo on
for
her cheek.
violence.
So a six. Six could be it could be just six. We might just be getting it wrong. Just but Vi. We'll go with Vi for now. So yeah, she's a big sister character, just like Powder. You know, lost her parents young, but of course she's a big sister. She's the one that has to take on that responsibility of looking after her. Then of course, you know, Vanda comes along, takes care of them, so he's now their new sort of father figure along their early part of their life. And then that all gets messed up. Vanda dies. Vi ends up, you know, end up being separated. Vi ends up in prison, you know, for an unspecified amount of time, while Powder is, you know, with Silco. So I guess we already know what Celeste thinks of Vi, but but I mean, my thoughts were like, you know, like I said before, that she didn't seem to care about the whole politics of it all. Really, once she got out of prison, you know, she really just wanted to find her sister. You know, the whole thing with Caitlyn coming to get her out, it was really just about finding her sister. But I guess perhaps a part of the kind of forgot how it all ended with her sister, because when she does meet, it's all hugs from her and no real acknowledgement of their last kind of encounter, or that, you know, how it, you know, sort of ended. Sweet Bundy, what was your thoughts on Vi as the big sister? Vi as, you know, was she? Do you feel like there's more she could have done to bring Powder back when she turned to Jynx, or do you feel like everything she did in those moments were completely justified? I mean, I've already said something about turning back on family earlier. So how do you feel about Vi's character, her story, her development, and how that kind of ended with her?
I really liked Vi. I don't feel like she did everything in her power to fix things. I felt like she got distracted with Caitlyn. That was one of my gripes about the show too, is just the fact that she got distracted. She wasn't trying her hardest to go after Powder. And I feel like if she went full fledged, like no distractions, not letting Caitlyn pull her back and all that, she probably could have made more progress. And unfortunately, Jynx was in such a situation where she probably still would have went the direction that she went into, but it was more hope at that point. The odds weren't so against her. So that was one of the things that I didn't like. I don't mind Vi and Caitlyn being in a relationship. I just mind the fact that it came out of nowhere. A little, at least for me, it came out a little sorry, it came out of nowhere a little too fast, and it caused a distraction from what I was really seeking as a viewer. Like I really wanted Vi to go ahead and fix things with Powder, Jynx, because these two were like great siblings. Like these characters, I was like, damn, this is really how you write sibling characters. This is how you do it. And I loved it. I loved the chemistry between those two. And I wanted to see them go ahead and reunite. Even though I knew, nah, it's not going to work out like that. I got immersed into the show. And that's typically what good writing does. Even though you can see something coming from a mile away, if you get immersed, you're not focused on the end. You're focused on what's going on now. So yeah, I hate when characters get too distracted, and I felt like that distraction right there, it wasn't strong enough to go ahead and justify it. Because again, these two just met, and it was just some traits that you could see. All right, she flirted a little bit when they went to the brothel. It was kind of like that first hint, like, oh, Vi does this look when she finds out that Caitlyn is more comfortable talking to one of the women instead of the male prostitutes. So I don't know. But as far as her character, other than that, Vi is strong as hell. She's not arrogant. She's just bold, and she wants to take on so much responsibility. And Vander tries to go ahead and teach her, like, listen, there's a smart way of doing things, and there's a brave way of doing things. And I get that you want to be brave, but this is not smart. You have to be smart. And unfortunately, Vander's taken out before she could really understand that lesson that he was trying to teach her. He didn't have enough time. And that was one of the sad parts, is like in stories where they involve a powerful character dying, sometimes they give, like, the person who dies gives them everything that they needed to know. So when they die, it's like, all right, you're gonna remember these words. And like Lion King, for example, when Mufasa died, Simba already got what he needed to know from Mufasa. Mufasa couldn't teach him anything else, at least from a story standpoint. With Vander, I feel like there was more that he could have fucking gave to Vi, because Vi didn't comprehend it 100% until like towards the end of the damn season, and even then, I don't think she fully comprehended. And that's what death is really like. Death is sometimes it's incomplete because you're snapping somebody out of existence at that point, and they had so much more to give. And that's why I really enjoyed it. And that's one of the things that made me sympathize with Vi as a character, is like she had so much loss. And instead of becoming twisted and distorted like Jynx did, she became stronger from it and tried to go ahead and cope with it in her own way. She had her own flaws. And that's what made these characters so fucking parallel to each other. And I really enjoyed it. Jynx is one side of the coin while Vi is the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I listen.
No, I my 2 cents earlier on Vi, so
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I love the characters in this show, and I'm not gonna lie, it makes me want to play the game.
no.
No, I know. I
Well,
play Smite, which is like a knockoff.
Like, I'll take it back,
understand.
because they have other League of Legends games. There's Legends of Runeterra. They have Teamfight Tactics. They like, as long as you don't play the actual like battle arena, as like kind of like Smite, like that just like sucks your soul. You become a mean person.
Hey, I know.
Yeah, you watered down. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I know you gave your thoughts on Vi earlier, but Bunny did say something about Jinx and Vi being sort of opposite ends, I guess opposite sides of a coin. Do you feel that's accurate, Celeste, or like in terms of their characters in the game and the show? Do you feel like that is who they are effectively after Vander dies? Jinx went, effectively one way.
Oh, absolutely.
Vi went the other way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So some kind of like Easter egg before Arcane ever came out and was in production, I guess. Um, Back in the heyday of League, they used to have these character screens whenever you have to log in. And Jinx's character screen was the exact same position as Vi's, but it was destroyed. And like Vi was first, obviously. So Vi had a very beautiful city of Piltover. So when Jinx was introduced in the game, she actually had the destroyed version of Vi's background, which is really interesting. And then now that they have this whole way of like growth in Arcane, of like, oh yeah, you know, people die, but it's not going to affect me. I'm just going to like keep my memories happy with her being happy. And then seeing how Jinx was very, oh yeah, it affected me so hard that now that they're dead, I can only keep thinking of the negative things, and I'm not thriving. So you could even say that the hair color is polar opposites as well, because Vi has the like magenta red, and then she has like the blue. So you can really tell they were meant to be polar opposites despite being sisters. It's kind of funny how like you know the important people usually have crazy hair or something like that. It's like an anime.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, you have super hair like this, crazy. And then there's another student with just like a ponytail and it's dark hair. And it's like, wow, they're so normal. But you have pink hair. It's like, that's how you know they're the main characters. But yeah, definitely, they're definitely the yin to the yang kind of situation in their parallels.
Yeah, with Vi for myself, the whole kind of relationship between her and Caitlyn. Like, I mean, as somebody who didn't play the game, I wasn't really giving it much thought outside of okay, that's what it is what it is, right? But it's, I mean, I think you were saying that that's not. You guys were saying that's not quite how it is in the game. That they don't have that relationship, so it just kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. I mean, is that something that do you feel like it could develop into more accurately how, because I mean, being that this is set before the game, do you feel like that whole thing is something that could develop into more accurate how it's represented in the game, or do you feel like the way they did it here, it just absolutely just does not make sense at all?
I think it makes sense because like before Arcane was released, we already knew that Zon existed and we knew that Piltover existed. And like for them to not really clarify that the Undercity was Zon was like really interesting. I didn't get that until I didn't get that till like the second to last episode, the penultimate episode. I was like, oh, I'm so dumb. I was like, that makes so much sense. So there were so many parts where it did make sense, except Singed and Victor's story where they like start. That kind of made me like, where did this come from? Okay, are you just adding characters now? Because remember, when they first made Arcane, it was like half of the season, and then they released the second half of the season, which is very unique at the time. It wasn't like episodic, like you get one episode next week, another episode. It was like, here's 4 episodes at once, you can binge watch it, and then like the rest of the season came out. I believe that's how they did it, right?
Okay.
I think that's how they did it.
Yeah,
I didn't watch it all
recently,
like,
so maybe.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe Bundy watched it all at once when it came out the first time, but I didn't. I remember my ex-roommate talking about it, so yeah.
And also another a league question for yourself, Celeste, because I think I understood it a little bit, but let me just ask you to clarify what, because I mean the show's called Arcane. Arcane League of Legends, but Arcane is the main name of the show.
Right.
And this is something that I wasn't quite clear on after watching, even after watching it twice. But I get they have this thing called Shimmer, and they also got this thing called Hexgate, and Hexgate, I believe, is a combination of science and magic. And I feel like they did use the word arcane somewhere in the show to describe something, but what exactly is arcane? in relation to League of Legends?
Okay, so there is like legit magic sources out there with runes and powers, like magical powers, and that's where arcane arts kind of come in because some of the champions just use like straight up magic abilities. And the thing that's actually on Jayce's wristband, that little blue gem that looks like a teardrop,
Right.
or no, it's either a teardrop or a crystal, one of the two.
Right.
That's actually called a mana crystal, or he's got a tear of the goddess, and those are two different items that you can buy in the game. So what he is trying to do is actually harness the power of magic without having the ability to wield magic, and he would actually have to like learn how to do it, but he's trying to force the power of like knowing how to do magic because certain people aren't allowed to do magic, so that's just what happens. There's actually a full nation called Demacia, one of my favorites, that is anti-magic. They're like, if you're a magic user, we'll kill you, kind of thing. So that's one of the biggest things. Now, what Jayce and Victor create is something called Hex Attack. So it's kind of like the power of utilizing magic without being a magic user through different items, and that's where the hex gates come from. So that's how you're able to teleport from one land to another, which helped Piltover. What Jayce creates is actually something that a lot of the other characters, no, not the characters, but in the game, those are items that you can use for your character to become stronger. One of them is like Hexatech Proto Belt, and that one actually like allows you to boost forward and shoot things. So that's like really huge in like League lore. And some characters are like, oh yeah, they're a Hexatech like engineer, blah 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 blah. And that's what Heimerdinger is, even though he didn't want to like go into Hexatech like technology. If that helps.
Okay, yeah, I think I get that now. Okay, but I guess to be fair, like I mean, this is there's potentially another season and maybe even a third. I guess in terms of the time it's set before the game, so possibly they could go more into because they didn't really dwell too much into magic in this season. So I guess they could potentially do something for a season 2 or season 3 where they do more of the history of the magic and that whole thing and the different nations and that whole.
Oh, absolutely. Because what they did was they opened the idea of Noxus coming after Meld, right? Because that's where her mother is from, and she's a general from there. Another champion who is, or another character from League, he is like a Noxian king, and he goes around and he's like super strong. So I'm just like, oh, are we going to get him? That'd be really cool because the magic company, no, not magic company, the magic hating country Demacia and Noxus are at constant war with each other. So that's a whole nother storyline that they could potentially go into. But the whole story of like the two sisters becoming who they are is like really strong. And then potential spoiler alert, maybe not. There is like a brother sister combo in Demacia, and the sister actually uses magic. So it's kind of like, oh, like I hope that they
And that's the
put that
Magic
in
Hating
there.
Nation.
Huh? Yeah, the
Demacia.
magic hating nation.
Okay.
So I'm just like, ooh, you have your sister using magic, and she's like one of the brainchild. Like she is one of the money cash cows of League of Legends. I'm just like kind of like, why aren't you putting her in any of like the big things? Because she gets like at least one new skin a year. So it's like, yeah, you're loved. You're loved by Riot if you get new skins every year.
Okay, so potential characters to be introduced in the coming seasons.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. I feel like yeah, we've talked a lot. Probably a good place to kind of start winding this down. But before we do, let's see if we could get a few final words. So, Sweet Bundy, do you have anything you'd like to say, add, or ask, or whatever else you want to add about Arcane, League of Legends, and the like that we haven't covered, or just whatever and anything else you'd like to say?
Ekko.
Ekko.
I
Okay.
feel like
Ekko!
we
Oh my
didn't
God,
even
yeah.
talk about him.
Okay,
That
yeah, we
fucking
haven't
character,
talked. Yeah,
man. That fight scene between him and Jinx, and even the intro to his episode, how the opening was different, and they showed his people, the guys on gliders or some shit like
Oh,
that.
they're called the Fireflies.
the Fireflies. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh shit. Well, yeah. Well, that shit was badass. I like every time when I remember it, I go and watch it on YouTube. Like just that opening. Because first off, they play Pusha T, and don't get me wrong, I'm not like a big Pusha T fan, but when he when he raps good, he raps good. All right. Back in the day, he had clips with his brother, and they released one of the best hip hop albums of all time. So when I heard him come out of nowhere, and it's a good song by him, I was like, oh shit. And that fight between them was so damn good. Uh, Even cutting back while they're fighting, like you could see them in their when they were younger, it will just transition almost seamlessly, just showing them as kids, like going through the same motions or whatever. Or even if it wasn't like, I'm probably misremembering, but
It's okay. I can help you.
Yeah, we have an
I
expert
remember
here.
that scene. I wasn't dancing to it.
All right, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Maybe.
It wasn't like they were having a flashback of a training session. The fight was just showing them as kids because they remember themselves as kids, right? Or was it flashing back to a training session as well?
I would say both.
Both? Okay.
I would say both.
And it's funny because there's an anime that did something very similar, Naruto, where
Yeah.
Oh, you watched Naruto?
I'm a big Asian lady. I cut fight.
Okay, so you know
I
what
don't
I'm
want to say
talking
it like
about.
that because I'm not current with any other anime at the moment.
Me neither.
Anyways.
But you know what I'm talking about, with Obito and Kakashi.
Oh yeah. I thought you were going to talk about how Boruto, how they actually go back in time,
Listen,
and then
I'm not gonna lie to you.
They actually meet little Naruto and Boruto, and then Jiraiya is alive. So
I'm not gonna lie to you. One of my boys been trying to get me to watch Boruto since it came out. I said, listen, I already watched the movies and I read some of the manga. And I was like, I don't like this shit. I've been one of the biggest Boruto haters of all time. Every time when he brings up Boruto trying to convince me that something good is happening, I just shit on it. I'm like, I don't even know why you're bringing this up to me. I don't want to hear this.
Naruto ended. Okay, we don't need to know about Boruto, but like the whole thing about Boruto, really quick. I know this is an arcade podcast, but really quick, the first 120 episodes of Boruto is filler and like introducing the new Konoha.
Oh, I know.
No, I'm just telling that to the podcast.
Oh, okay.
I know Bandits might not like watch Naruto, but I'm just like, just if you want to skip a few episodes, you gotta. It's aight, okay? It's okay.
Yeah.
Bet.
But I am one of the biggest haters on that anime. In fact, I'm glad that we even brought it up because I'm going to show him this part specifically. Just to rub it in even more that I hate Boruto. I do not like that damn anime. And it's only because I'm bitter, honestly, only just because I watched and read Naruto since I was a teenager. And that's a long ass time. It didn't end until I was like well in my 20s.
I'm older than you. I'm still going on with it.
I mean, it's more of like a loyalty kind of thing. Like, man, let me stop because I could go on a rant. Like
Ekko, right? I mean, so the Ekko fight, like you brought that up really quickly. Like the one thing that kind of made me disappointed was like I wish I saw more of him fighting Jynx as adult than like the whole like art fluid, like really cool animation. Because I was like, okay, like yeah, let's go, popping off all this stuff, and then it's just like over, and I'm like, wait, it didn't showcase his abilities, and his abilities are so cool in the game, and like I've had many a games against an Ekko player where I'm just like, I fucking hate you, and then I played as him, and I'm like, I get why people like you, and then he's in a lot of the music videos Not a lot, but he's in one of the music groups from League of Legends or Riot Games. And it's like, it's not bad, but like his whole thing is that he can reverse time. And they didn't play it enough that I liked it, but I don't think they evolved him enough inside the show to really give that. So I think if he's working with Heimerdinger, we can see that in season 2. If we have a season 2 with Ekko and Heimerdinger.
They have to.
That's quite interesting, actually, because you mentioned that one of his abilities about reversing time was then perhaps that whole scene when it's showing the flashback or the previous training and the current bit is kind of going back and forth. Could that then perhaps be Ekko doing that?
But see, that's why he drops the clock. And it's like that's what got me like really hyped for that match. Because like it's a great match, don't get me wrong. But it's just like, okay, you dropped it and then you're like hitting stuff back and forth. Like that's very on brand for Ekko. But there was no point in time where he like reverts back to a single point and was able to like knock Jynx out. Because there's I think it's his W. So there's a specific move where he hits it and then he's able to either rush forward and go faster in time, or he goes back in time, which is his ult. And so he can redo up to like 10 seconds prior to what you've just done. And it shows like a trail, like a little ghosty trail behind of what you've done. So you can track how you've gone or where have you gone. And I'm just like, are we going to see that? Oh my God. And I'm just like, we didn't see it. And I was like, why did you get your ass handed to you so easily, bitch ass? Like the fuck? I got so mad because I'm just like, Ekko is a good player. Like he's a good champ. I just don't play him. I know how to, but I'm not good. I played Jinx.
What I want to ask is, so in the game, do they have any lines against each other? Like, you know, certain characters, they'll go ahead and have history, like lore. So in the game, when they go against each other or they kill each other, whatever the case may be, they'll say a line referring to their little background story.
Oh, absolutely. They have fuck ton of lines, especially like if you have a character in versus like their sibling character, and let's say that they have a feud, they will definitely say something snarky like, I believed in you, sister, but you dropped me for like you left me for dead. Jinx's lines, I know for a fact when she was first released, she had some that was kind of crazy. She's like, I'm crazy, but you should hear my sister. Like, it's like, you have a sister? And that was one of those things that we didn't realize that, but that would like it have those things. And she's like, I've got tons of guns, but don't tell my other guns. And it's like those kind of things. It's like, my guns are bigger than yours kind of thing. Now with like the newer lines, I think it started happening more as I think 5 years ago, maybe that's when it started that they had more catty lines against each other. So there's a YouTube channel called Skin Spotlights, and they actually do like the actual banter, and they let the champions talk to each other. And it's like, oh, kill this person from the opposing team, or kill this person, like this person dies and they were on your team. And it's like, oh no, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, they do have that.
Between Jynx and Ekko in the game, right? Do they have any lines, or this is just something that just started in the show?
They should have lines. To be honest, I don't know what they are. Because prior to the show, Ekko had a crush on Jynx.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, because they're both from Zon.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like crazy chicks, so yeah.
And they're around the same age too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with crazy chicks. I mean, sometimes, you know, if you want something that's not so like church going goody two shoes, get yourself a crazy chick.
One of my downfalls is going to be a crazy chick. I don't know. I was just talking with my coworker the other day. He said, what type of women do you feel like you're into, but you shouldn't be? And I said, I like strong women and crazy women. And if I find a strong, crazy woman, I'm done. Like that's going to be my downfall, because I embrace that shit. I like Jynx. If I ever met somebody like Jynx, I'll be screwed. Because I wouldn't be like, oh, let me go ahead and make sure you're making the right choices and the safe choices. If she told me, yo, hold this bomb here, or let's go rob a bank, I'm like, Man, I don't know. That's crazy, but all right.
I mean, couldn't it just transition to like, oh, let's pay for HBO and Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu? Like, is that crazy enough for you?
It's a start.
And then she'll be like, no, now we gotta get this service, Crunchyroll. It's like, oh, I don't know.
Well,
You sure?
Damn, man. What about the package deals?
It's like, now let's get YouTube Red. It's like, oh, I don't know. You're pushing it, honey.
I mean,
I don't think I know anyone that owns YouTube Red, honestly, or YouTube Premium.
I got YouTube Premium. So.
Oh gosh.
I got YouTube Premium.
You're crazy.
You know what?
Like, you can't stand the ads. Like, do you really have like? It's just like 5 minutes to like 5 seconds.
You know what it is? I originally got it because, well, couple of reasons. I originally I got it is because at the time, YouTube was doing their own shows, like that. It had Cobra Kai was on it, right?
But isn't it on Netflix now?
Yeah, so before it was on YouTube. So season 1 was released, and I watched season 1 on YouTube, but I had to pay for individual episodes because YouTube Red wasn't in the UK at that time. So when YouTube Red came to the UK and Cobra Kai season 2 was available, I was like, yo, I'm down. And I thought it was a cool way, especially because I do watch YouTube a lot. I thought it was a cool way to support the creators, not have the ads, and I get to watch Cobra Kai season 2. And it was like $11.99 a month. I think it still is actually $11.99 a month. And also it comes with YouTube Music, and I never had a music streaming app before that, so this is my first music streaming app. So that's why I got it. I ended up keeping it because I use a YouTube streaming app, music streaming app quite a lot. As it turns out, it's so convenient to stream music. It's kind of cool to watch YouTube without the ads.
Back in the day when you could just watch YouTube without ads.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I know there's other methods you can use to watch YouTube without ads, but this way at least the creators get a little something. And yeah, they don't do their own shows anymore. And Cobra Kai is now on Netflix, which I also have. So the value has certainly dropped a little bit since I've originally got it. But yeah, I do use the music streaming app quite a lot. So yeah, that's why I keep it, and I've had it pretty much ever since for the last 2 years. I don't know how long I've had it for now, but yeah, I do use YouTube Music, and I'm probably not quitting anytime soon. To be honest, I think I'm a loyal customer at this point.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're crazy.
The one loyal customer they have, probably like the one guy who actually has YouTube Premium.
Yeah, the one guy in all of London.
Yeah.
There's probably at least 4 others.
Yeah. Celeste, before we depart ways, do you have anything else you'd like to say about League or Arcane or anything?
Sure. Don't start playing. You'll either rage quit or it's not for you. I mean, they're a messy company, but the things that they put out are really good. If you get interested in playing, I'd say watch someone else play and teach you before you actually download it. You'll spend lots of your life to it, potentially money. I know some people that spent over $1,000 into a game that's free. So be careful.
Yeah.
It's a free game, but you just can't help it. You just want to buy everything that they put out, and it's just like you don't need to. I think their music is great. If you don't know, they did the KDA stuff. It's kind of like Korean pop music, but it stands for kill, deaths, assists, and I like the music and stuff. But yeah, can't wait to see if there's a season 2. Make sure to tell your friends and family that you love them, so they don't become like Jynx and abandoned and needing a place to be.
Good point.
Belonging, Stay away from drugs that are purpley and have like glitter in it. That's all. Oh yeah, that's about it.
Speaking of music, actually, real quick, I did like the main song they used by Imagine Dragons.
Enemies.
That was a really cool song. And there's one episode where there's a band playing that song in the episode, and the animation for that, I thought was really cool. How they kind of timed it with the words and everything. I mean, I'm sure it's basic animation at this point, but whatever. I liked it still. It just looked really cool on screen. but yeah, I thought it was a good use of the of music from the theme and being in the show, and it fit for me.
Yeah, they like home slices now because Imagine Dragons has done, I think, potentially 2 or 3 of their actual songs for the World Championship Series. So yeah, it's really good. Like they get some good people. I think one year they had Zed. I don't remember, but they started producing their own music for it. So yeah, they work hard with their music and their shits. That's it.
Cool. Well, I would like to say thank you, Celeste. Thank you, Sweets, for coming on and chatting with me. Um, we talked about Arcane for the past just about 2 hours and 20 minutes. So yeah, we appreciate you guys taking the time out of your days to chat with me about a TV show. Um, that is awesome. And yeah, for anybody watching and or listening, if you have any recommendations of shows, movies, or games, or whatever else you want to hear us chat about, then yeah, drop any suggestions in the comments, and we'll see if that could be done. But yeah, guys, thank you, thank you, thank you. And until whenever, if ever, peace.